Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Projector's Facebook Live sessions. I think it's our fourth or fifth session since the circuit breaker started. Today, it's a post-show discussion about Better Days, which was our first ever virtual screening last night at 8 p.m. We hope some of you managed to catch that. But just, I want to wish everyone Selamat Hari Raya today. Unfortunately, we can't be visiting, but our neighbors brought us some lontong and serunding, so that was great. We hope you're also enjoying some good food and catching up with friends and family. Just some updates about the projector. So we still don't have an opening date yet, so we are going to continue our virtual programming as much as we can get programs to put online. So do check out the projector's page, theprojector.sg. Some of the films are still running, so if you've missed it, you can always still catch Sorry We Missed You, I Dream of Singapore, and we just put up a documentary about Haw Villa and one of the artisans there called The Last Artisan. So do check out the projector's page if you haven't. The other thing we've also launched recently was the Intermission Bar's food delivery service, so that you can have a full experience whether you're watching any other streaming platform, but you can still have your popcorn, nachos, and beers at home. So you can also check the projector.sg/delivery, and you can order food that's available Wednesdays to Sundays, 12 noon to 9 p.m. But you can pre-order anytime, so go ahead and check it out. So I think, today we are talking about Better Days, which is a film which we brought in partnership with Clover Films. So thank you to Clover Films also for facilitating this. It just won 8 Hong Kong Film Awards early this month, including Best Film, Best Director, and Best Actress, and among other things like Best Cinematography too. So we were quite keen to have it. Unfortunately, the cinema is not open. We do intend to have it for theatrical release. So if and when we reopen, or more when we reopen, do check it out and watch it on the big screen. It's going to be a very different experience. So the film deals a bit with bullying. This is set in China, but for us, we felt that it was important to bring it back to Singapore and see and understand a bit of the context of bullying in Singapore. And so to share a bit more of that space, we do have 2 guests today. I'd like to introduce them. First, we'll have Hui Ping, the director from Singapore Children's Society, and we have James Lim, who's the assistant director in Lutheran Community Care Services, who have done a lot of work with bullying in Singapore. So I'll just introduce them. Hi, Hui Ping and James.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for joining us today on a Sunday. Really appreciate you dedicating some time to it. So you had a chance to watch the film last night?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, do you have with you guys working directly in the space of anti-bullying in Singapore, do you have some responses to the storyline for the film? Maybe Hui Ping, you can start us first.
I think the show did bring out a lot of emotions in me, because I thought the scripting actually covered a lot of aspects of the things we do see in a child in a bullying relationship. So I think what I really like about it was talks about the structure, the systems involved, talks a lot about how some of the emotions that brings in the child goes through, the hurting relationship, how they actually try to problem solve on their own, who they approach for help, stuff like those. I thought those were very, very much true. Although the film was based in China, some of those experiences actually is very applicable to the children in Singapore as well.
Yeah, James, any responses?
Yeah, I thought that the movie was really quite moving and impactful. It's quite, the acting was quite good personally. I felt the portrayal of the emotions really well. I think particularly probably one moment that stood out to me the most in the whole movie was about how right at the start they have this theme that either you bully or you get bullied yourself. And I think that's something that runs throughout the whole movie in terms of choices that the person have to make, the main actress have to make, in terms of whether she will fend for herself and get vengeance or not. I think it's quite interesting in terms of how things turn out. There are many points in time where she could have become a bully instead, or rather the protector on her behalf could have become bullied. And I think that reminds me that sometimes, when you look at bully, they actually could be bullied in the past before. And this is all part of a hurt cycle of bullying they were seeing. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And
It
Hui
was
Ping,
actually
so
quite painful to watch at certain parts because it was quite vicious and it brings out a lot of emotions in me when I watch it as well. And I wish I could like really pause and say this really shouldn't be happening to anyone, any child, anywhere in the world in that sense. So I think it stirs a lot of emotion for me as a practitioner working with children. Yeah.
yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of people have, even messaged us and say like, well, it was a great movie. Like it was really for them quite gut wrenching in terms of, decisions that she has to make, and sometimes you just fall into this spiral, and it just leads you to a place that you really have no control of after that. Yeah, so I mean, Hui Ping, how did you get involved with the Bully Free SG program, and could you share a bit more of Children's Society and the programs that exist here in Singapore?
Okay, for Singapore Children's Society, we started running our bully free program in 2004 to address the issue of school bullying and its impact of those involved. So we have been aiming to promote a safe and supportive school culture with a zero tolerance towards school bullying. Today, right now, we have divided our work into two main areas. First area we talk really much is based on our school-based work. We aim to increase awareness in bullying and to provide some basic strategies to actually minimize and manage bullying. So we do this by conducting assembly talks, we do school-based campaigns, we run workshops to teach a child to be an upstander. And upstander is a term that we promote, which means that you become an active bystander. When you see something going wrong, you do something about it to stop it. And we also do teachers trainings. We also run camps for children where we teach them to become bully-free ambassadors so that when they go back to their own schools, they know what to look out for and to help their friends. We also run a series of community-based work aimed at also raising awareness. But this time around, we are aiming to work with the masses of the macro system. We have a website at theprojector.sg. On the website, you can find quite a lot of information directed for children, parents, and educators on some of the, how do you identify bullying, how do you pick up signs of bullying, and when that happens, what do you do? We also run public workshops, we also run digital campaigns, workshops, even for parents as well. We do emails and phone consultations.
Right.
We also have an IG account to really get people to continue talking about bullying, because we recognize that in order to deal with bullying, you need to keep the conversation going, because bullying is a very complex issue. And very often when a child bullies, there's a lot of things that's happening in the background that causes the child to do that. It's not a black and white kind of issue. But usually there's a lot of gray zone that we need to go in and we need to pick it up and address them accordingly. So in a nutshell, that's what Children's Society is doing, and I've been managing this portfolio for the past, I'll say 5 years. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, in your experience, like, has the situation been improving at all, or is there more, because you work in the awareness space, right?
Correct.
So, are schools and families becoming more sensitive to how they can also support people who are being bullied?
I think the awareness of bullying has increased significantly over the years, to be honest. A lot more people now, when they see bullying happening, they are at least able to say, hey, this is wrong, this is bullying. But perhaps what is more necessary in the community these days is when bullying happens, how do we respond? How do we help to support the child? I think this is an area where I think that we have not matured to the level whereby we can move past this big the thinking that okay, somebody must be held responsible, somebody has been accountable for it. People actually say, what happened? What are the facts of what was the facts? You're fact finding something that what has happened. When every time you see something going viral, you're like, oh, who are the ones? Who is involved? And then you start telling, oh, this is the family members. And then suddenly you see an explosion of people all looking at this child who was involved in the bullying. I think for us, we felt that it's perhaps time for Singapore to actually move beyond that and come to a point whereby they know that it's actually good for us to create maybe open, honest relationship with one another to how to better support a child in that sense. And I think that's the kind of work that we're hoping to do. And I think that's where restorative practice comes in very, very useful and very needed to get to that level of work as well. So maybe James can tell us a little bit more about our people and what he does at his area.
Okay, so over LCCS, I think we do more of the casework and direct intervention with bullying. Our cases come from sometimes when we work with schools, they receive referrals from the teachers themselves. What we fundamentally believe in all our program is that at the core of everything, strong relationships is the key and it's the most important thing. So what we try to do is that, sometimes when bullying occurs, sometimes the very first thing to do is to isolate the victim and the bully. You have a separate process to engage the bully. You discipline, consequences, punishment. Victim is counseling. But on the other hand, what we believe and feel is that actually the situation is best solved when all parties that are affected, both the victim and the bully, as well as any other stakeholders, be it their classmates, their parents, their teachers, all of us come together to have a conversation about how they have been hurt, who can really help to, what can we do to make things right together. Yeah, so it's only through these group conversations that we can really talk about how we can try to make things right. Yeah, so at the crux, that's what we do in restorative practices. And pertaining to this area of bullying ourselves, we are having this sort of intervention or campaign, in the sense this thing called Missing Conversations, where we hope to facilitate more of such restorative conferencing for the different schools or children out there who are suffering from bullying. Yeah.
Right. I mean, but yeah, so it definitely sounds like a bit more of a long-term and more challenging thing compared to, say, disciplining a bully and saying, I have reprimanded the bully and therefore the case is closed in a way. Has it been, I mean, what are the challenges of going through RP, particularly because you need to bring in many stakeholders like families, the schools, the peers, and all this? I mean, yeah, in your experience doing direct work, do you have any stories to share?
Yeah, I think exactly as what you say. Sometimes the first feedback we get from teachers or maybe different people is that RP takes a lot of time. There's a lot of time needed to get people to come together, have a conversation with them, prepare them, so that when they come together, they're able to have a safe kind of conversation. And I think that's the case for all of our work as well. I think particularly one case that really is still vivid in my mind is where we have this case where we have a Sec 3 normal technical student. He was diagnosed with autism, mild autism since young. And one day during a PE lesson, what happened to him was that he went to the toilet to change into his PE attire. Some group of guys came in, turned the showers on him and pushed him into the cubicle. So they also make fun of him for his special needs issue. Yeah. So now you can imagine like how, if you're in the shoes of this person, you'll be really traumatized by it. You'll be like, how can I feel safe in the school anymore? And I think that was his situation for the next I think few days or a week or so, where I think his attendance was an issue because he don't feel safe coming to school. And that's where we got connected to the school, because I think his parents were disappointed and very angry by the incident, and they wanted to make a police report. So on our hand, we spoke to the police, we talked to them, we asked them to, will you be open to come to this platform, this conversation where actually we can really talk about what has happened for everyone, and also who has been hurt by the whole process. Yeah, so we didn't necessarily tell them that this process at the end of it, we are going to tell you that you are going to be wrong. I think when you tell police that they are all shut out to anything that you want to say. So we bring all parties together, we facilitate that. I think what was powerful in the whole process was that there was the involvement of the victim's parents and the bully's parents. I think at the end of the whole conference, of course, the bullies themselves, they apologized, and they apologized and wanted to share that they understand what they have done is really hurtful for the child. But the magical moment was when actually, for the offender's parents, when they saw how difficult it was for that Sec 3 boy with mild autism to even express himself, and also hear about how the hurt he has gone through. I think she remarked that as a parent, her heart broke. she cannot imagine that she, as a parent, for this kid, like how difficult it could be. And I think when the bully's parents apologized to the victim, that is what broke the bully and helped him understand, it's not just my actions alone. My parents are affected. He is affected. His parents are affected. That's why we are all gathered here in this conversation. So it's true. This whole process took quite some time. I think it was maybe a month or so. But we have this saying that we always tell teachers also, which is that you spend time now to save time later.
Right.
You spend time now to have these important conversations about the hurts and how to make things right. You may get to save time later when all the small bullying issues come up again.
Right. Yeah. And do you keep in touch with them after this process, or?
I think in terms of our work with schools, we do more like program on a program referral basis. We did have a follow-up circle after that, and we clarified with all of them that there's no more bullying going on. But we're not too sure, like, because this is like 4 years since that time. Yeah.
Okay.
I think from Children's Society, our experience is also quite similar. I think James brought out a few very good points. I think sometimes people also have this misconception that once the bullying report has been made, the bullying can actually be stopped immediately. I think one of the things that we need to recognize is that when bullying takes place, relationships were hurt, emotions were being, traumatized. People were hurt, people were traumatized and stuff like that. And a lot of things are not in place. So very often when bullying is being reported, the schools do need some time to investigate what really happened. Sometimes to the unknown, to the members of public, you may think that the school may not be doing anything, but that's not true, because when we communicate with the school, we know that they were looking at CCTV footage. We know they were putting measures to get peer support, like having a buddy to really accompany the child during recess, walking to classes, things like that. I think James is not, I think he quite agree with me, because the school actually has to put a lot of measures in place to protect the child, and the focus rightfully should be on the involved party, which is the police and the victims in that sense. And very often when something went wrong, the people who are in the class, the bystanders, are also affected. So very often, schools also need to spend time speaking to these children to ensure that they're not going to walk away from the incident feeling scarred themselves as well. So just to add on something else also, in 2017, Children's Society and Institute of Mental Health actually released our findings in our study on the impact of cyber environment on adolescents in Singapore. I think one of the things that we found was that 1 in 4 children that are youth in that sense actually were traditional victims. 1 in 4 were traditional victims, and about 1 in 9 of them were cyber victims. And about 8% of these youth, they have both experienced both traditional and cyberbullying. I think one of the things that James shared out that in his case study that struck a chord with me is that actually one of the things that we found was one of the top 3 most experienced bullying behavior reported by traditional victims was that they were being made fun of due to their looks and the way they talk. The top most called names, and the third one was having rumors being spread about that person. So having said that, I think one of the things that we need to educate children to have is actually acceptance of differences in people as well. And I think that was also portrayed in the film that we saw, because some of the characters in the movie, they were a little bit different. People maybe who did not excel as well as some of them in the school. Some of them, basically, they just look very different. I think for the lead character, she herself looked a little bit, like not as pretty as the other characters, I could say. And maybe that was why she could be singled out. So these are things that we actually have to look out for as well. So to the educators out there, sometimes these are signs you also need to look out for as well. And what I really like about the show is one of the things maybe people may not have picked up very easily was that actually the main bully, she was one of the top students in the school. She won a lot of awards. She comes from a very good family background, and yet the action that she carried out, the behavior that she carried out was really, really vicious. And I thought this is something that I wanted to just highlight to the audience while listening today, to realize that actually a bully can be anyone. It doesn't need to be a child who comes from a very poor background or who have a lot of issues, things like that. So I thought
I think there's no stereotypical case study of what or demographic for what a bully will be. It could come from any direction. I think going back to your point about being aware of differences and all, just want to understand, I mean, in schools and in your experience, like, do we talk enough about diversity, or, especially with special needs, or say sexual orientation or race and religion? Are there, programs that address diversity such that people are open to it rather than bullying people because they are different and such? Do you have any experience to talk about that?
From what so this is really based on interactions with the schools that we have worked with. Very often, it's very much dependent on how much the teachers actually bring in this teaching in their curriculum, and the here and there. That means that here and now, when they're guiding the child when something goes wrong, they use as incident teaching and all. But I believe the MOE system has to have quite a number of curriculum in place as well. Based on what we have seen MOE has actually released that in 2021. They're going to have where to talk about the mental health framework, mental health modules in, so peer support will be in place from 2022 in all schools. I think with all these provisions to create a more conducive environment, I think things should be on the better side in that sense.
Right. Okay. And are y'all involved in shaping this mental health programs, and the peer support? Is Children's Society involved in shaping this program, or that's a separate project through MOE?
I think it's a separate project through MOE. We have quite thick skin, so wherever we have findings, we'll always send it to them and share with the ministry as well. Yeah.
Right. Because I imagine because y'all have a bit more casework and experience, you know the nuances that need to be addressed also. And if you can shape it, it'll be great. Yeah.
I think what's very important is having conversations with everybody. So I think having this conversation with MOE is very important. Do you have a question for James, I think? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, there's actually a question here, and this relates to a bit of this also, like about giving kids self-confidence in order to, for them to stand up to bullying. I mean, Kathy here has a question about whether teaching children self-defense, like MMA and all, will actually give them the right tools to bully-proof themselves. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Okay, so for me, learning martial arts, it teaches a form of self-discipline. Actually, for me, it does two-pronged approach. One, it actually builds on the confidence of a child. If a child knows that he or she is able to defend themselves, they'll feel more secure. The second thing martial arts teaches is not to attack others, but a form of defense. And very often, it teaches you on self-defense and self-control. So when a child is actually trained in this martial arts, it's not because they wanted to heat up and retaliate by physically hurting everybody. But if the child is able to apply the principles being taught in MMA or things like this, so that when something bad happens, they know how to hold back the anger and go and seek help. I think it's how you use it in a way more proactive and a safer action in a sense. Yeah.
My thought about this is, the best defense is always a strong relationship in the class or in the school itself. Yeah. So sometimes when people ask us like, what can we do to prevent bullying? I think it all goes up to more upstream work in terms of how can we build a classroom that's safe, that's inclusive, and people where we have this saying among ourselves where the more I get to know you, the less likely I am to harm you. Yeah, the more I know about the kind of struggles you have or who you are as a person, the less likely I am going to harm you in terms of physical or verbal or cyber in that sense. So something I always encourage teachers is, let's build that culture first. And when you have that strong culture, that strong relationships, you'll see lesser of such behavioral issues or bullying in that sense. Yeah.
So more communication, more better relationships are the key to that positive school culture that we're talking about here.
Yes.
Right. And the openness to diversity. I mean, you mentioned this word about inclusiveness, and it's how where we define what's inclusive and being open to that, I think would be an interesting conversation to have also with educators and families and people, because everyone comes from different background, right? And then they come into this school and they're all in the same classroom. So how we facilitate conversations about diversity and all would be interesting to look at. Also, when we talk about these anti-bullying programs, I imagine. Great. Yeah, thanks. I mean, do you guys have anything to add on about, your respective organizations and experiences?
I think for me, I really like to appeal for people when you see something going wrong out there, be a positive bystander by doing what's right, and by doing the right things. I'm not talking of just filming it and sharing it. Actually, if you know where the child is, maybe in the school, which school, just go directly to the school and report only to the school. Why this is so important? I need to emphasize is because bullying is a behavior, a wrong behavior. By sharing it so rampantly and making it viral doesn't help the child much because it becomes a stigma that the child will have to bear for the rest of his or her life. And for a young child, I think it's too much to bear. And really for the school, I think they also appreciate the being able to work on the child, not in the public spotlight, where all the resources could be channeled in on helping the victim and the bully to correct those behaviors, than having all these noises coming from all over. Really, they find themselves to do media response, reassuring parents for other children who are not even affected by this about all these things. I think very much we have limited resources, and we very much want to appreciate if we could direct those resources that we have to the child in need in that sense. So I think respectful, responsible reporting is something that I want to bring up to people who are listening today, and I think that will really help us in managing bullying in that sense as well.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, once it goes viral, it takes on its own spin and it becomes a lot of victim blaming, which is, what you're talking about, that we shouldn't be looking at it, but rather addressing the right resources to help this person and change the support structure around.
Yes.
Great, thanks, Whipping. James, any closing messages?
Yeah, so I think firstly, I just want to speak to the educators, all teachers who are, teachers of handling children. I think let's not look at, in terms of bullying, let's not always the first thing look at in terms of consequences, the rules, and how can we go about making sure that the bully or the victim get what they deserve. But I think let's really look at the harm that's being done to the relationships, how they can actually come together to have their conversations, to talk about how they've been hurt. Even the small pockets of time, that's only a strong relationship is the best guarantee that all this bullying, all these behavioral issues will not come about. And I think to the general public, if you have someone who is a friend who is a victim, it's always helpful to have a conversation with this person. I think Hui Ping and Shadow, I do agree fully. And I think it's really helpful if we can widen the circle of support for these people. The more people come to support, the more people come to conversations with the victim about hurt, I think the more that the victim is able to process and it makes sense of what has happened to him or her.
Ask a very good question. What needs to happen to make you feel safe again? And sometimes this help can come in from different levels, be it from your peer, from your parents, from the counselor you're seeing, the schools, etc. It really can come from many, many different layers of people around the systems that's surrounding the child. So very often when you have that conversation, ask the child this question very directly. What is it? What needs to happen to make you feel safe again? I think that's something perhaps people can remember as well.
Okay, that was useful. Yeah. Thank you very much, Whipping and James, for joining us today in our conversation. To everyone else, better days, we've closed our online screening, but do look out for the theatrical screening that will be on when we reopen. Once again, thank you very much. We'll post more details on the Singapore Children's Society's bullyfree.sg program and Lutheran Community Care Services program, links below. Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.